Hello, I'm Mark Baer. Welcome to MUSE. You're at the Museum of Monterey. My guest, Gerry Low-Sabado. And I want to, first, your family is seventh generation Chinese in California. Mm-hmm. You're a powerhouse in the community.
Thank you.
You're wearing this beautiful robe that that's going to look great in with the art. And just a little bit why we're here today. Now, I met Adam Liu, whose father is a fabulous artist and paper cutter from China. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we've been trying to do at the Museum of Monterey is reach out to different segments of the community. We've had up on our wall on the second floor, we've been working with the Italian community here and trying to collect their stories and trying to find ways that the museum and the community can closely work together to preserve their stories, basically. And so Adam came in, and this is the start of a reach out to the Chinese community, which again, it's been one at a time, but this is the beginning of a new relationship. And you have been just a fabulous advocate for your community and keeping your community's history alive, also getting the facts straight.
Yes.
Yes. So let's let you explain who you are a little bit.
Well, I'm Gerry Low-Sabado, and I am a fifth generation Chinese village descendant. My ancestors first came from China on a Chinese junk, all the way from China in 1851. They landed in the Carmel River area and built their little homes village in Point Lobos at Whalers Cove. And my great-grandmother, Kwok Moy, was born in Whalers Cove in 1859. She's the first documented Chinese woman born in the Monterey area. And the descendants, she and her descendants and her brother's children, and they've moved from Point Lobos to Pescadero Point, where there was a village, and then to Point Almaeus / Point Alones in Pacific Grove. That's where my grandfather, my mother's father, was born in 1881. After the village burned down mysteriously, my grandfather, most of the Chinese moved away, but my grandfather moved his family into Monterey. It turns out, so he brought Kwok Moy, his mother, and eventually my mother was born in the village where they moved to. It was off of Ocean View Boulevard at that time. Now it's known as Cannery Row. So where the Ghirardelli chocolate is and the fish hopper, that beach right there, Maccabee Beach, was a Chinese village. And my mother lived there probably around 2 years, and then they moved up to Wave Street at 774 Wave Street, which is now the Wave Street Studios. But my mom was raised there, and that's where we always had our birthday parties, anniversaries. Grandma's house was the spot where we all gathered. So I really, although I was born in Monterey in 1949, I knew nothing about Chinese history. We never learned I only knew about Grandma and Grandpa. I didn't know there were other ancestors that were here. We didn't wonder about it, and that's amazing to me. And we didn't learn about it in school. We learned about the Italian fishermen and the Mexican history here. We never heard anything about.
Which is again why we're having
Chinese
this conversation.
history.
Yes.
Yes, and there were some things that needed, dates and names of people that needed to be corrected, and it kind of became my mission. And it really sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's scary to go into a community to try to tell a story that might be a little contradictory as to what the community has thought for 100 years. How do you go in and try to correct that history? And when I didn't know myself, and as I met others who knew tidbits and found tidbits as they did research, I learned more and more about my ancestors. But to tell you the truth, when I first would go into any city council meeting here, I mean, I've spoken at city council meetings in Fremont, but to come here and speak, it was a little scary. And I didn't know how people would react to me. I encountered people who couldn't even look me in the eye and didn't really want to talk about history because some of it is painful to think about. And for some relatives have said to me, "What are you trying to do, cause trouble?" Or, and it's, why am I causing trouble by telling the story when that's what historians do? Why don't we want to find out what really happened to the Chinese story? Right now, communities, different nationalities, different communities are trying to learn about the history. I mean, we didn't know anything about Chinese history, and suddenly there's a whole nother story here. And when we can integrate that into the bigger picture of Monterey or Pacific Grove or Carmel, or even in Salinas, I think it becomes a more richer story. So my mission is to bring about change in a kind way, to help people understand that different cultures have different traditions, and not just Chinese. I think that it's important to celebrate many cultures, like you were saying. You're starting to interview other cultures. And really, my first experience here at when it was the Maritime Museum was that the documentary By Light of Lanterns, An Untold History of Monterey's Chinese Fishermen, which was produced by the Teledramatic Arts and Technology Department at Cal State University Monterey Bay, was premiered right here. And we had so many people, we had to ask, they were lined up in the, standing in the aisles. We had to ask people to leave and promise that we would show it a second time. So I believe that tells you that there is a yearning to hear the real history in our area.
So first of all, let's set up another screening soon.
Oh.
Yeah. So let's do a little business. Let's get this film screened here. You know, again, because I'm learning how to reach out and let's make things happen. So what's the state where? Let's talk about the Chinese community, Chinese American community here now, and what's going on as you see it.
The Chinese American community is still kind of quiet. I was given that you started to talk about the Walk of Remembrance. So because I was vocal about the festival in Pacific Grove, Carmelita Garcia suggested that I have an event in Pacific Grove called, we called it the Annual Walk of Remembrance of the Point Alones Chinese and Point Almeas Chinese Fishing Village. And so for the last 5 years, on or around May 16th, the day that the village burned down, we have a gathering of friends, descendants, community, and we've had different events going on. Just this past May, we had 5 other descendants who came to speak, and they told us a little about their history. So now, some people they're willing to come and speak, and so this was a wonderful event. One curator said it was magical.
How can we help?
We can schedule by light of lanterns here, and when I do schedule that, I always tell the public relations person at CSUMB, she always wants to know when. we're showing it. So Joan Wiener, she usually will advertise it. I'm sure you would advertise it. And because I have recently been named Outstanding Chinese Citizen of Monterey by the Chinese American, the Monterey Bay Chinese Association. They are a huge group. Last year was the first time that I went to one of their events. They had a Chinese New Year celebration. I didn't know there were so many Chinese in Monterey. It was a wonderful event, Chinese New Year's, and they had lots of entertainment. And it was all done in Mandarin, and my family doesn't speak Mandarin. So I didn't really understand what they were saying, but it didn't matter, because what was important was the joy in that room, standing room only, and the celebration of Chinese New Year's. That was what we all had in common there, is that we were all celebrating the New Year. It was a very happy occasion, yet I could not understand a word of what they were saying. But we shared that historical celebration for many, many generations. And this year, it was even larger, and they included another organization that I belong to, the Chinese American Citizen Alliance, the Salinas Lodge. And so we were different Chinese groups speaking different languages, yet all celebrating and happy for this great occasion. So I really felt that this could be an example even to the surrounding cultures. We don't even have to speak the same language. We can still understand and enjoy the events that are happening, and the great entertainment, and just a great celebration.
We're running out of time.
I'm sorry.
No, but I want to talk about this. This is so beautiful.
Oh, yes, my nephew brought it to me from China. And in fact, I am going to China in October. And I'm going with a group called Roots Plus from San Francisco. And this program, they don't want you to just go and visit. They want you to learn about Chinese history. Why did people come here? They want you to learn about the different cultures there. There are many different dialects there. And they are helping me to search for my roots. And they have people in China who also will help to search for your roots. Although, because my roots are from 1851, I'm not sure that we'll be able to find people or a place, but they are hopeful. And we recently came upon some information that takes me back more generations than I realized. So, this could be the connection to China even. And so, and with the Monterey Bay Chinese Association, there are members who had bought the documentary from me and told me they're taking it back to China to show people in China. And one man was a lawyer, and he was taking the documentary back, and he said he's going to use it in his classes. So what I'm doing here, I never know where it will lead me. But I believe it is bringing more awareness about the Chinese, and I think that it will help to create more community with other groups.
So I just want you to put this out there. I want to let you know that the Museum of Monterey is very interested in working with the Chinese community. Again, we're starting with these paper cuts. We'll schedule the movie.
And there's another thing that's
Yes.
going to happen in Pacific Grove. Right now, a boulder has been moved. So the Pacific Grove Heritage Society is sponsoring it, as well as the City of Pacific Grove and the great work of the Pacific Grove Museum of Natural History. And so a boulder has been moved next to the recreation trail just outside of Hopkins Marine Station. And so for me, that boulder is the beginning of telling the story to the tourists and the community. We are working with a wonderful designer, Jeff Norman, in Oakland, and he has produced just a beautiful, I've seen the mock-up, and a porcelain enamel plaque is being manufactured right now, and perhaps in September we will have an unveiling because it will be attached to the boulder, and we'll have an event then.
Any last comments that you want to say before we go?
Yes. In Pacific Grove, when I talked to you about the Feast of Lanterns and the Walk of Remembrance, the opportunity for me to bring people into Pacific Grove and remember the village and pay respects to the ancestors and the history of the village. And there has been such a change of attitude now and an acceptance of the story. And last year, for the first time, Mayor Kemp mentioned the Chinese village during the Feast of Lanterns. And during the Walk of Remembrance, Ken Cuneo mentioned to the audience, "Come back." I was so thrilled that he said that because it really makes us feel welcome to come back, and lets us know that the community is interested in that story, in the history of the area. And so I think that when we have a future event here at MOM, that the same reaction will happen, and we'll have a lot of people come to the museum to hear the story about the Chinese. And that is, so the community working together with museums, different museums all over. But I have seen the positive response and the reaction of descendants more willing to speak up with the understanding that there are people interested in our story, because for more than 100 years, nobody talked about those stories. So now the museums are becoming interested. Thank you very much.
We need to collect them. So again, now I said 7 generations, so you're 5th, so there are 2 generations after you.
My children are 6th, and then my nieces and nephews' children are 7th generation, and we have one on the way due next month.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I didn't misspeak here.
No, you're right. There has been a lot of research done, even more recently, and I am finding out historical information about my family here in the Monterey area that I didn't know about before. But it's because other people are taking an interest, and where I would never have been looking in scientific journals, now we have found my great-grandfather's name in scientific journals.
Wow.
So he helped to separate out the hagfish embryo for the scientists at Hopkins Marine Station, and he found the spawning grounds for the hagfish. So I really feel that with these kinds of tidbits of information that people are finding, I am being able to piece together my family's history, and also as other descendants are coming and telling their story, it feels as if I am putting back the village together.
And your community's story is important to the whole community's story. And the whole community's past informs our present, and having our community, a prideful community with as many pieces together, informs our future. And
Yes.
that's what we're trying to do at this museum.
And that is the definition of multicultural. So now this is the opportunity to teach the community. And I think that then we will have a more fuller, not just Monterey history or Pacific Grove history or Monterey County history, but it also is California history, it is U.S. history.
And now, with our relationship with China, we are in a location with another country. This stuff is playing out. This stuff's important now.
It is.
How do people contact you? They've watched this show, they've heard you speak, and they may have ideas. who should they contact you, or who should they?
You can contact me at rsaturday@aol.com, rsaturday@aol.com.
My guest, Gerry Low-Sabado. I'm Mark Baer. You've been watching MUSE.
Thank you.